Okay, so this is going to be a video that just finishes the notes from yesterday. So if you take out this note sheet and you want to follow along, so we didn't really 100% finish this, but what we covered yesterday was this idea that a whole exists if you factor a fraction from the top and the bottom. A whole exists if a factor, that's the stuff in the parentheses, is the same in the top and in the bottom. So like here in this problem, where are we? Here we go. There is no whole here. It's already been broken down for us, but this factor and this factor don't match. No match, no whole. Okay, no issues to deal with. So basically I want to just revisit this one problem so you can see this whole thing start to finish, just one problem. So I'm going to erase all this and remind you again that when you see a complicated problem that looks like a box problem, that's essentially what you should do. So somewhere on the side here, I will just recreate the box problem for the top. So the top left goes in the top left, the 8 goes in the corner. This becomes x and x, and the first thing that comes to mind that makes an 8 is a 4 and a 2. 4x and 2x, and I'm just seeing if things match up. This matches this. 4x and 2x's together make 6x's. 8 in the corner, so matching. So now I can, instead of using the inside of the box, I can move to the outside. X plus 4 from the top, x plus 2 from the left. That's my dog freaking out because my kids are outside by themselves with neighbors playing. And he doesn't like it. He gets anxious. It's really annoying. Okay, so now I'm going to do the bottom one. So x squared, again, the x squared goes in the top left, 10 in the bottom right. This becomes x and x. First combo that comes to mind is 5 and 2. 5x and 2x. X squared matches, 10 matches, 5 and 2 make 7. So there we go. All right, so if you notice, after you factor and you go from the inside of the box to the outside, what I noticed right away, so when you are given this list of questions, the first thing, now you're going to see the word whole appear here all the time. So before you answer any question, this is probably the most important piece of information, but before you can answer it, you have to check to see if there's a whole there, which means you have to use the box problem to convert from here to here, and now this is what you should be focusing on. Do not ever look back at the original, all right? We don't want to use this version. We want to use the new version, and that's because we can see that there's overlap here to here. So right away I noticed that there is a hole there, but this is not a yes or no question. God, my dog is annoying. This is not a yes or no question. This is a find the address of where this hole is. And the hole, if you weren't here yesterday, is just a random open dot somewhere on this coordinate plane. But we just need to know where, right? Okay, so a hole exists because there's a factor here that is present here and here. So immediately I write down the value that's opposite of the number in the parenthesis. So that's -2. So the parenthesis that repeats has a +2 in it, and we take the opposite of that number. Why? Because it creates a 0. -2 plus 2 is 0. -2 plus 2 is 0. As soon as you identify this number in the ordered pair, you immediately cross out the factors that cancel. Once you identify this value here, you cross these out and you never, ever, ever look at them again. So the equation that we're going to use to help us answer all the rest of these questions is the one without the matching factors. So just x plus 4 and just x plus 5. And I'm going to take the parentheses out because I don't need them. There's nothing else there except this and this and this and this. If you want to keep the parentheses in there, you totally can. Okay? So to finish up the whole, remember, this is the input. So once you have an input, you just go to the machine, which I'm going to just copy here so I have it here. And I'm going to take that x plus 4, and I'm going to substitute in, oops, that was too much. I'm going to substitute, can you believe he's still barking? The -2 in for the x's. So wherever you see x's, instead of writing x's, you're replacing them with the -2. So -2 plus 4 is 2. -2 plus 5 is 2/3. So 2/3 is about 0.6. So this is the same thing as -2 and 0.6. So -2 and 0.6 is about here. -2 and 0.6. So a hole is just going to be drawn as an open dot. Okay? Everything else that we're going to answer from here goes from this equation. You don't look back. Once you have your modified version of this equation, after crossing these out, you never, ever, ever go back. Okay, now, vertical asymptote. If you remember, here's your checklist. And I'm going to post this on Schoology so you can have this right here. But you should know these procedures. Have them with you. Keep all your notes out all at the same time so that you can always keep referring to them. Vertical asymptote. Set the bottom equal to 0 and solve. Set the bottom equal to 0 and solve. Subtract 5. X equals -5. And that's my answer here. X equals -5. Remember, a vertical asymptote is just an imaginary line that goes up and down that goes through -4. I know Anna wants me to do the line in a different way, but this is just sometimes faster. Horizontal asymptote. Go back to my notes. Compare the degrees. Okay, that one's easy. I have to go back to degrees. The degree is the highest exponent. The exponent here is 1. The exponent here is 1. So the degrees match. So what do I have to do? Compare the degrees. When the degrees are equal, look at the coefficients. Those are the numbers in front. The number in front is here is 1, 1. So 1 over 1 is just 1. So y equals 1. Why? Because if this line is vertical and has an X in it, then a horizontal has to switch letters because they're different lines. Y equals 1 is a horizontal line. That's for you, Anna. I will make it bold. Too bold. There we go. Okay, so now I've drawn in my vertical asymptote, my horizontal asymptote, zeros. 0 is another way for x-intercepts. X-intercepts. Set the top equal to 0 and solve, and then you write it like this. Set top equal to 0. Set the, what was that purple? I'm trying to color code it so it matches. Set the top equal to 0 and solve. So x is -4, and you write it like this, -4, 0. I don't know, I just lost my train of thought because the dog started barking again. -4, 0 in an x-intercept, the y is 0. X-intercepts have a y of 0. It's the opposite letter. -4, 0 is here. Switch to green, I think. Y-intercept. Sub in 0 for all the x's. Sub in 0 for all my x's. So whenever you see x's, instead of writing x's, you're going to write zeros. So again, here's the equation. X plus 4, x plus 5. But the procedure is that when I see the x's, I write 0 in for both of them. So 0 plus 4 is 4. 5, and again, a y-intercept, you write it like this. What's special about a y-intercept is that the x is 0. So 4/5 is 0.8, but it's also very close to 1. 4 out of 5 is close to 5 out of 5, and 5 out of 5 is 1. So it's pretty close to 0, 1. So like pretty close to here, okay? I don't know if you can tell, but as I move to the right, it looks like the dots are traveling upward. So I'm not going to connect all the dots quite yet, because I still want to figure out what's in my chart. All right, but that's all the information. And notice I tried to really go back and use the notes. So the most important piece of information from here is always the vertical asymptote. And that's the number that's going to go in the middle of your chart because it splits your grid in half. Right? It splits it from the left side to the right side. Remember, -5, when you plug it in, is going to be undefined, because -5 will give you a 0 when you substitute it back in. then I just do a couple numbers behind. So -5, -6, -7, -4, -3. Okay, so again, I'm only using the highlighted equation. So I'm just going to copy that again here, and then I'll work from bottom of the chart to the top. So I think I copied it, right? So again, input, output. To get the output, I just replace all my x's with -3, and then I simplify. -3 plus 4 is 1. -3 plus 5 is a half. So I'll just write a half, or you could write 0.5. Instead of doing this with the -3s, now I'll do it with a -4. You get 0 over 1. That's 0. And that makes sense because if you look, -4, 0 is already our intercept. So we actually already match that, and that's okay. Go back, keep replacing my x's. Remember, this was the original equation. But when I see x, instead of writing x, I'm going to replace my x's with -6. And simplify. -6 plus 4 is -2. -6 plus 5 is -1. And -2 divided by -1 is 2. Wouldn't it be funny if the dog barked twice at this time? No, it's not funny because the dog barks the whole time I've been in this video. Okay, -7 in place of x. -7, -7. -7 plus 4 is -3. -7 plus 5 is -2. A negative divided by negative is a positive. Now he's whining at my door. Great. 3 divided by 2. Remember, 2 negatives make a positive, so I'm just going to erase that. And this is 3 over 2. But it might be beneficial if we just write that as a decimal. 3 over 2 is 1.5. Okay, so now remember, the purpose of the chart was getting more dots. The more dots, the more accurate your pictures. So -3 comma a half. -3 is here. A half is somewhere here. So again, it's like real hard to eyeball here. -4, 0 is already here. -6, 2 is here. -7, 1.5. -7, 1.5 is here. Remember, 1.5 is between 1 and 2. So if you notice on this side, I know it looks a little confusing. I'm going to redraw the hole a little bit. Okay, as we move to the right, the dots are going up. So it's plateauing towards the blue line, which means as this direction, it's plateauing downward. There's a lot of like compression going on here. All this stuff is like pretty condensed, but that's okay. Just try to do the best you can. The dots, as you're going this way, are moving up, and they're trending towards the plateau line, which means in the other direction, they'll be plateauing towards this line. Even more clear on this side, if you connect these dots in this direction, the dots are going up. As they're going up, they're trending towards the red dashed line, also known as the vertical asymptote. And when you connect them in the other direction, they're plateauing towards this blue line here. So now if I zoom out, you got a nice little curve on the left and a curve on the right. Okay, so before I end the video, quick recap. Somebody gives you a crazy complicated equation. Right away, factoring, aka box problem. Look for factors that match. If they match, you take the opposite of that number, you put it right here, and then you scratch these out, and you never, ever, ever look at them again. You rewrite the equation nice and bold somewhere so that you never, or you scratch this out entirely so that you like never look back at it ever again. And then you use this modified version of the original equation to answer all the rest of the questions. Vertical asymptote, set the bottom equal to 0, solve. Horizontal asymptote, comparing your degrees when they match, you look in front, y equals 1. Zeros, set the top equal to 0 and solve. That number is first, comma 0, because -4 goes in, 0 comes out. Y-intercept, you replace in 0 for all your x's. Replace zeros for all your x's. 0 plus 4, 0 plus 5. There's your answer here. In an x-intercept, the y is 0. In a y-intercept, the x is 0. The whole, how we got that 2/3 was once we had -2, we just plugged it in. -2 plus 4 was 2. -2 plus 5 is 3. I know that that is a lot of procedural information, which is why the notes are so important, because if you have the notes and you know how to use them, finding this information step by step shouldn't be too terrible. Once you have all the information filled out, or even step by step, plot all the information you can. The chart, the middle of the vertical asymptote goes in the middle. Go behind a few numbers. These are just numbers to plug in. Numbers go in, numbers come out. The point of both of these is that these are dots on the grid, which then you can connect to make your pretty little picture. Okay? All right, so once you've got this video down, hopefully you can answer the questions in the Schoology quiz. And that's it. Hope that helps.